Hello, my name is Dion Danage. I'm an advisory teacher here at CEAT, Specialist Education and Training Support Service. I'll be delivering the first part in your Zones of Regulation training. Zones of Regulation, or ZORs, was created by Leo Kuipers. It also incorporates Michel Garcia Winner's social thinking concepts. It was influenced by the ALERT program and the Incredible 5-Point Scale. It's a curriculum for supporting pupils to gain skills in self-regulation. The 4 zones are used to describe how we are feeling on the inside. They also relate to a state of alertness. It provides a system for classifying our emotions using 4 relatable colours. Blue zone, a low state of arousal. This is accompanied with very low energy levels. Being sad, tired, bored, and sick. The green zone is where you're calm. It's the most organised state of arousal. It provides the optimal state for learning. Feeling happy, focused, fully engaged, content, and truly ready to learn. The yellow zone is where there's a heightened state of arousal, but with some significant cognitive control over emotional responses. Being frustrated, excited, restless, agitated, nervous, anxious, generally silly, and experiencing the wiggles, where they just can't keep still. The red zone, a very heightened sense of arousal, experiencing intense emotion. They do not have cognitive control. They need time as they cannot be reasoned with. The red mist has descended and the reptilian brain has engaged. Feeling elated, anger, rage, ecstatic, terror, panic, and devastation. Generally out of control. Zones of regulation supports pupils in self-regulation. Self-regulation in relation to sensory processing skills, emotional regulation, social cognition, and executive functioning operations. Sensory processing involves controlling the amount of sensory input you receive so that you do not become overwhelmed by too much of one or more stimulus. Sensory input through sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch are very commonly known. Vestibular, your movement and relationship with gravity, and proprioception, body awareness, and general body position can often lead to behavioural concerns. Hyposensitivity versus hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity is when you're oversensitive to a small amount of a sensation that most neurotypical pupils would not be, such as being touched, certain sounds, certain textures, too much light. Hyposensitivity. This is where they're undersensitive to a sensory stimulus. They tend to carry out often distractive sensory-seeking activities for one or more of their 7 senses in order to feel regulated. This could be mouthing objects, spinning, walking around the room, creating sounds. ZORs supports sensory processing difficulties by helping pupils understand what they need in order to feel regulated. This is going to be through looking at a variety of coping strategies within the curriculum. Emotional regulation can be defined as processes responsible for controlling your emotional reactions in a range of situations that one is presented with. The brain and our emotional response. There are 3 key areas in the brain which are related to our emotional response: the frontal thinking brain, the limbic or mammalian brain, and the reptilian brain. The rational brain, or the frontal brain, is responsible for thinking, reasoning, executive function, and self-regulation. It's fully engaged when you're under limited stress. We then have the mammalian brain, often referred to as the emotional brain. It triggers strong emotions that need to be managed well by the rational brain. It's also concerned with our safety. Lastly, we have the reptilian brain. Behaviours related to instinctive survival and life processes, fight and flight responses, or breathing and digestion. This is fully engaged when you're in the red zone. The other areas are switched off. Emotional regulation and ASD. Emotional regulation typically learned through social interaction. Children with ASD tend to learn them independently. Emotional regulation difficulties are linked to social communication difficulties. We can support this through modelling, empathy, co-regulation, and co-learning with our pupils. The regulation of emotion is essential for the regulation of behaviour. Zones of regulation and emotions supports pupils to recognise a wider range of emotions and perspectives about how others see and react to their behaviour. It also provides pupils with insight into events that trigger their less regulated states. Social cognition and executive functioning. Social cognition is how pupils process social information. Executive functioning is about managing themselves and their resources in order to meet a clear goal. Key executive functioning thinking strategies for self-regulation include attention shifting, working memory, positive self-talk, and flexible thinking, all areas covered through the ZORS curriculum. ZORS helps pupils to know how and when to use problem-solving skills to manage their emotional state. It's a journey. It's a journey that you're on with the pupil. Our ZORS webinar comes next. We'll be looking at a range of areas such as the rationale, how to get started, how to introduce the zones, toolbox, social thinking, behaviour mapping, and the size of the problems. Your advisory teacher is there to help embed the practice through following the curriculum and inclusive teaching. During the live webinar, your questions about this video will be answered, so please hold on to them then. Otherwise, feel free to email any questions you might have. Zones of regulation. Thank you for joining the session. Please, would you be able to complete an evaluation, as your feedback would be appreciated. Thank you for attending. Goodbye. See you soon at my webinar.